Hello, my name is Jack Warner. This is lesson 2 of step 2 of the Winning with Money process, emergency fund. And today we're going to focus on the savings and emergency account process. Like, how does that work in my bank accounts? So hopefully I can give you a good overview of all the different savings options and different accounts when we are creating our emergency funds. The first thing is you need to set up different accounts. I mentioned this in lesson 1, but this is also a good time to bring up how does this look and what bank should I use and what accounts should I have set up alongside my emergency fund. So set up different accounts. Make sure you have multiple separate accounts, and this can be all at one bank, or it can be spread out amongst several banks if you want to. Totally up to you how you want to do it. I've heard stories of somebody putting their emergency fund in a bank account that was 9 hours away from them, so that they had a lot of financial, emotional damage history. So they made sure that it was set up really far away, and the rest of their accounts were set up scattered throughout the city that they live in. You do not have to be that drastic, but you want something that works for you too. So make sure you set up multiple separate accounts at your bank or at a couple of banks. And you should literally label them, each one, emergency fund, savings account for buying a house, for buying a car, checking account for spending, whatever it might be. So this is the way it should look. For example, this is just a template. There should be a checking account for your everyday expenses, and it shouldn't range more than $500 to $1,000. It probably can go even less. Just depends on what city you're living in and if you have a family, different lifestyles, so on and so forth. But a checking account for everyday expenses, and this can be things like groceries, gas, entertainment, whatever supplies you might need. That's where that money belongs. Then you need a checking account for your bigger expenses, for your larger costs. Then this should be built into your budget, so you kind of already know what this will be. And this can be anything from rent, your home payment, any major debt payment that you owe on, the utilities that you have to pay for, and that should range somewhere between $2,000 or $3,000. Again, make sure that you understand that this should be within your budget and your lifestyle and all that. So if you budget big enough, I'm going to stop here for a second. If we budget enough and we can sacrifice in some areas, especially when we're just starting out, we can probably get away with just using these funds as our emergency fund. Still set an emergency fund up, but we might be able to sneak by and pay for some expenses, maybe some smaller unexpected expenses or costs that could pop up. We could use this money just to pay for that and maybe sacrifice it. Maybe we don't go out to eat for 2 weeks because we had to pay for a $200 vehicle diagnosis or whatever it might have been. But still, I reiterate, make sure we set up that emergency fund. This is emergency fund is last resort. If you can use this, awesome. Then we have our investment account. Again, this is just a template of how a typical account should look. A retirement account that's separate from your individual investing. A savings account for savings goal. This could mean a bunch of different things because people might have 3 different financial goals they're saving up for. Maybe they're sending a kid to college. Maybe they are saving up for a house or for a car, or maybe for a business. And I'm going to talk about this in step 4 later on of the Winning with Money process, that each account that you have set up for your savings should be separate from other savings goals. So you have a goal for buying a house. That should have its own savings account. You have a goal for saving up for a car. That should have its own account too. You have a goal for starting a business. That should have its own account as well. And when I say savings account, I also mean that you could use money market accounts or some other type of very safe, conservative savings type vehicle. I would not put it in the stock market because especially if it's a short-term, mid-term type goal, you need that money pretty soon. And you don't want to lose it all in the stock market or some type of investment vehicle. And then you have your emergency savings account. Again, label these. You have your car fund, emergency fund, everyday expense account, whatever it is. You have that set up. You need to literally label them and have them organized in your online bank account or in your traditional bank account, however you see fit and however it's set up for your lifestyle. Everybody's going to be different. You can customize it to whatever you need. Just remember the most important part is emergency savings account is your last resort. So if you can pull from your checking account, or from, say, you got paid that same day that something happened, or within 24 hours something occurred that you did not expect to happen, then you can use that money. So how to start? The first thing you need to do is, and I mentioned this in lesson 1, is start your emergency fund. And this is your starter emergency fund. So I don't want this to take away from the 3 to 12 month expense emergency fund that we're going to set up later on in step 4. But this is what we're talking about here in step 2, is just our starter emergency fund. So it's going to be a small amount. It'll range depending on your lifestyle and your age. It'll range from $500 to maybe $4,000. So before organizing your accounts and moving money around, focus just on building the starter emergency fund. And this should carry us through some expenses in case something occurs for a couple weeks or maybe a couple months. Then we need to create savings goals. So this kind of goes along with our emergency fund. We have our emergency fund set, we have our budget set. Now we can start creating savings goals. And step 1 we talked about will be Step 1, we talked about budgeting. In step 2, we are starting emergency fund. So step 3, we'll start paying off debt. And you can start writing out financial goals you want to save up for. So paying off debt, education, buying a house, whatever. Then we can organize our savings goals. So we need to organize them from short term, less than 2 months, medium term, 2 months to 3 years, long term, 3 years plus. So we're talking about buying a house in that long term, maybe paying for a wedding. And again, these, just like I mentioned in the last slide, these should have separate accounts. We also need to make sure we're paying ourselves first. And all that means is saving. So when we get paid, we need to make sure that that money is going into our savings account and not our checking spending account. We can move that money later. We can always make that transfer from our normal savings, whatever it is it's going to, into our checking account. But set up our direct deposit if that's something your employer does, or if you own your own business, you have that money getting directly deposited into your savings account. Money goes there first, and then we can allocate it according to our budget. We can allocate it to the different accounts that we might need. So we can put it to our everyday expense checking account, our big expense cost checking account, our emergency fund, our short-term goals, our medium-term goal saving account, long-term, so on and so forth. And then if we have any left over, of course, we can invest it or pay off debt, whatever it looks like in your own financial journey. Speaking of debt, we can aim to eliminate debt. So this should be, if you are in debt, especially consumer debt, we can focus this down in step 1 and step 2, because that's the whole point of this. Emergency fund is set, our budget is created. Now we focused almost entirety of our income on paying down that consumer debt. The last part of this lesson is accountability. It is so difficult to hold ourselves accountable because we are emotional creatures. We love to spend money. We do impulse buying, fear of missing out. All that kind of ties in to us being able to reach our financial goals and have and experience financial freedom. One suggestion, and the list I'm about to show you is just some suggestions I've done, some other people have advised me to do, or have advised others to do that I've overheard. Journal. Diary your experience. Journal out your experience. Create a written journal, a diary that you can check, post it up somewhere that you can see and that you can hold yourself accountable there. You can also outline your goals and steps. Write an outline of all the steps you're going to take and how you're going to achieve your financial goals. Plaster them all over your house. Put them in your office, put them in your bedroom, your bathroom, put them up on your refrigerator, the top of the oven, whatever. Put it somewhere that you can see every day so that you can continue to create steps and to take action to reach those goals that you are wanting to achieve. Get a mentor. There are so many people out there who are rooting for you to win with your money, with life, with whatever it might be. Get somebody who's not going to talk down to you or be condescending. Get somebody who is genuinely rooting for you, that you know, that you love. Maybe Maybe it's somebody you just met, and just that spirit that they have is a heart of a teacher, and they're willing to hold your hand through this process and help you achieve your goals. A part of being a mentor, hire a financial coach. An important piece here is some people are like, well, why do I want to spend money on that? Well, first of all, it gets your skin in the game. That's kind of a phrase the financial coach world uses. You become financially committed to this financial coach who is a professional in helping you through the process and holding you accountable. So you're paying them to hold you accountable and to teach you some financial literacy so that you can achieve your goals. Get your family involved. Get your spouse involved. This is so big. I think I've said this in several lessons now in the Winning with Money process. Get your whole family involved. Get your spouse involved. Get your kids involved. That helps you and them become more accountable for the whole process and for the whole family finances. And if you're past all these steps or you've done all these suggestions before, consider hiring a financial planner. These people, these professionals will help you and advise you to build wealth and start planning out your real estate, your retirement planning, whatever it is. They'll help you through that process a little bit further than some of these other suggestions and a little bit more in depth as well. That's it for step 2, emergency fund. The next step we will be going over in the Winning with Money process is the step 3, paying down our debt. See you then.